Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Healing Embodied podcast. This is your host, Chelsea Horton, and today I have an amazing guest, Sigrid Tasies, who is going to be dropping the wisdom around feminine leadership, embodied leadership, rather than what we usually try to do, which is to focus on achieving at all costs. So I'm really excited to have this conversation. Thank you so much for being here.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Why don't you tell our listeners a little bit more about who you are and what you do in the world?
Thank you. Yes, so I combined somatic healing and shamanic healing and my experiences. Some people call me a tuning fork for high achieving leaders in the world. And if we had to use titles, I'm a somatic facilitator, trauma informed master coach, and an initiated medicine woman. But what I'm most passionate about is helping people to reconnect with their bodies, to come home to themselves
Mm.
through this embodied remembrance of who we are, what our essence is, and what we're here to do in the world, so that we can lead and love and create and live in a truly fiercely soft and deeply embodied way.
I love that so much. Yeah, especially that piece of remembrance coming home rather than feeling like it's you trying to be someone else.
Mhm.
And I want to talk a bit about this piece of being a high achiever and feeling like you're here to make an impact on the world. And a lot of the people I'm sure that you and I both work with have a big mission or vision on their heart. Like they want to genuinely make a positive impact on people's lives. And there's such a fierceness with that. And then the way they go about, and I'm guilty of this too, the way they go about bringing this very important mission into the world often feels like push,
Mhm.
force, urgency. So I want to talk about like how can you bring that softness, that embodiment forward, even as you're bringing something really important and big into the world.
Yes. Thank you, because this is such an important thing for all of us to contemplate, and especially those of us that are wanting to bring forth missions in a feminine embodied way. I think it's very important to start by recognizing the fact that this is how our society and our world works and how we've been taught, so that there is no space for shame and for guilt and for feeling bad about the fact that we don't know how to do that yet. Staying with the facts is very important. And the facts are, this is how the world has operated for since the beginning, really. Since the beginning, it wasn't that long ago that women could not work. So when we gained access and opportunity to these work positions and workplaces, we entered a field that was created by men for men. And so there is a very masculine way of operating that is aligned with what works for men, from cycle perspective to a hormonal perspective to this. This is what works for them and their ways of operating. And I would even actually argue that beyond that, it doesn't quite work for anybody, because the ways in which we have learned to lead and to bring missions forth, to work, to generate money, to create, are very disconnected from life. They're very disconnected from the cycles of nature, the cycles of um, yeah, life itself. And so we haven't learned as a society how to operate and move and lead and create and walk in a way that is in alignment with what we need in order for all of us to thrive. So starting there, I find it's helpful because we remove the layers that make it feel very personal. It's about me. I'm not getting it right. I don't know how to be feminine. I don't know how to let go of the hassle. And we just see, okay, this is an issue that we are facing collectively. Now, when we come to our own individual journey, for each of us to look at, why am I hustling? Why am I pushing? Why am I forcing? Why am I so scared of slowing down and renouncing this push and force mentality that I've grasped onto for so long? What I find is the majority of us can trace it back to very primary wounds. and moments where we learned, most of the time subconsciously, that if we did not effort, if we did not try hard to earn our worth, then bad things would happen. We learn that we have to earn our place on this earth. We have to earn our place at the table, and that our survival depends on how good we are, how much applaud we get, how seen by others in the world, and um, admired we are, and how much money or financial success, career success we achieve. And so it's hard, and this is what I see a lot of surface level coaching programs and practices do. They just say, just soften, just put on some lingerie and just be more feminine. And women find themselves trying all the things. I changed the way I dress, and I'm moving and I'm doing the thing, but nothing is actually changing. And again, we go back to this feeling of guilt and blame and something's wrong with me. Well, what's actually happening is that we are putting a band-aid on a wound that has been written in the body and has created a set of default settings in our nervous system for longer that we can even be aware of. So going back to those wounds and really beginning the healing so that we can trust and truly, truly believe we are worthy just by being. Our essence is enough, our presence is enough, but also so that we can have this deeply embodied sense of safety from a nervous system perspective in the body first, to then operate a different way. We need to do this. Without this part, there's no way to really lead in a feminine way. We can change all the exterior surface little things, the items, the way we design our website, the way we move our bodies, but nothing actually changes until we do the deep rewiring and repatterning. And this is why the work that I do, the work that I understand you do, comes into place. And it's so important because we can't change the story unless we rewrite it in the body. And I always say, unless our nervous system feels safe to be, do, or have something, none of the positive affirmations, none of the mindset work is going to work. We need to start in the body first.
Mm. Wow. You said that so beautifully, so powerfully, especially the part of like, yeah, this programming to push, prove, hustle, like it's been there long before we were on this planet, before our parents, before our grandparents. Like, this is how we've learned as a collective to make things happen. And that the feminine way of doing this doesn't mean like the girly, like lacy, satiny, pink, like, sure, that's one way femininity can present, but really what you're saying is femininity is about removing the the it's like when we tangle our sense of worthiness to our doing. So femininity and feminine leadership is about leading through your beingness, and that your worthiness is, it can't be added to or subtracted from. And it's really about resting in your wholeness, in your worthiness, and for your doing and your achieving not to come from this place of once I do or achieve this, then I'll be safe. It's like, no, I'm safe first.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I like to put this example. I was giving this example to a client the other day. The feminine is so connected also to the cycles, the seasons of nature. We have these inner seasons within ourselves. And when we're listening, just like nature, nothing's rushing, yet nothing is late. Things in nature are always on time, and nature is not efforting and forcing and trying so hard. She's just being. And by that being, everything takes place exactly as it's meant to, exactly when it's meant to. So, for example, the example I was giving the other day is I got this intuition, this inspiration to write my second book almost 4 years ago. And I had friends and people around me being like, okay, so are you going to write it? And I kept saying, I just feel in my body is not the time yet. I know I'm meant to write it, but it's not right now. There are more things I need to leave. I'm writing the book in my body. I'm writing the story of my book still. There are things that haven't landed, things that I haven't fully embodied, things that I haven't fully lived that I know are meant to be in the book. So I waited and I waited and I waited and I trusted and I knew that the book was going to take place and it had to be written, but I also knew it wasn't the time yet, right? So this was almost 4 years ago, maybe 3.5 years ago. The first week of January, I wasn't planning on it. I'm not one of those people that's like, 1st of January, start the year. And the inspiration came through like lightning. So next thing you know, within 7 weeks, I had written the entire manuscript for my book. If you were to ask other people, a book could take a lot longer. And I also know people that have written an entire book in a weekend, right? However, what was so significant about this for me is that I said I could have taken 3.5, 4 years plus 7 weeks to write the book, or just wait until the right time and then only take 7 weeks to write the book, right? And this, I believe, it's one of the examples of how the feminine operates. When we are truly in our feminine, we are listening, we are connected to that fountain of wisdom that we all have access to, and we're willing to trust the timing of things. When we talk about feminine leadership, a lot of people think that means I slow down and then I throw away all the success and all the income that I've generated through pushing and forcing and all of that. But in my experience, that's not the case.
Mm.
You don't remove the access to success and income. You just open the window to more alignment and actually more ease.
Yeah. And that was the exact question I was going to ask, because when we work with high achieving women who have learned to push and do and achieve, the fear is, well, if I stop doing, like never putting it down, then my income's gonna dip. I'm gonna lose everything. How will I then achieve if I'm not achieving through this very like pushing, urgent, capitalistic way? And what you're saying here is that like the achievement still happens. It just happens with a lot more ease and inspiration and creative connection, it sounds like.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we are magnetic when we are really aligned with what our bodies are asking of us, when we are giving our bodies and our nervous systems what they need,
Mm.
ultimately our magnetism expands. You know, I remember the first time that I did this experiment, that I moved from hustling in the way that I used to push, force, all of the ways that I learned into trying a new approach and really doing things differently. And I was blown away by the results that I had actually. I went from making around 6 figures a year with a lot of effort to making multiple 6 figures within a week or two, just sending a few voice notes for
Mm.
the first launch that I approached from that feminine space, right? Then I had a day, a year or two later, I was going through a similar cycle of like, okay, I've gotten comfortable with this. How much more magnetism can I access? And I made 6 figures in less than an hour. Pure
Amazing.
magnetism, no hassle. And things like the book that I mentioned, you know, I've gotten clients at a sweat lodge where I'm just going to do my spiritual practice, and someone pulls me out at the end of the sweat lodge going, I don't know who you are and what you do, but I need some of it. I've gotten clients going to buy a sweater, and the person that's selling me the sweater ends up coming into one of my programs. I've gotten clients at birthdays where I'm not looking for it, but because I am in this deeply embodied, aligned place within myself, that can be felt.
Mm.
And people get closer, lean in, going, what are you doing? What have you got? Whatever you're doing, I want some of that. And so instead of hassling and pushing and forcing and utilizing that survival driven energy to market and to create, basing ourselves on what we think will work, what we think we have to do, what we think we have to create to make money, a whole new paradigm opens when we are willing to go, what do I feel most excited about? What do I feel like life, God, spirit, call it however you want, the universe is asking of me or offering that I may create?
Mm.
And when we're really focusing on ourselves and our inner work first, that is felt. And that is the strongest presentation card, the strongest marketing that we can do.
Yeah, and that's what I call embodied leadership when you're embodying the very work that you do in the world. You're the embodiment, the embodied representative of the transformation that you help other people walk through. That's exactly what you're talking about. It's like you just exude it. You just embody it. You don't even have to talk about it all the time. It's like people feel it by being in relationship with you, by seeing the way that you move. And I see a lot of people like, okay, well, I've got to get more trainings, I've got to do more things, I've got to have more skills, and all of that's wonderful. But what a lot of people are missing is this embodiment piece. Like, are you really powerfully embodying the transformation that you're here to help other people walk through? And that's sounds like such a big piece of your success in the way that you've moved through your own business.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it's something that I feel has always been important, but now more than ever.
Mm,
Seeing this shift that's taking place where so many coaches and healers and thought leaders and people in this space, they're sounding more and more alike.
yeah.
There, I personally have a hard time going on Instagram because everything sounds like it's written by ChatGPT. And personally, I'm like, don't take my time and attention just to feed me something you didn't even think about or write, right? And I understand that there's tools that we can use to optimize certain parts of our business and absolutely go for it. But what I'm seeing is that it's becoming more and more obvious who's embodied in the space and who is just regurgitating whatever they learned from X course, read from Y book, and heard someone saying on another video. And we've had this in the industry for a very long time. Not all industries really, but especially when it comes to this self-help, personal growth, healing, all of these industries, we've had a lot of people that were just really great at marketing through the hustle, push, force way, and they could just take whatever information from another book, another program, another person, and just repackage it and sell it. And now they're doing so even more with AI and all of those new tools. However, this is the one thing that AI cannot replicate is
Mm.
embodied wisdom, is lived wisdom. That's the one thing that it's, you can feed anything to AI and go, rewrite this Tony Robbins book and make it into 4 posts for me. You can do that. But what AI can never do is give you embodied wisdom because that is acquired through living and AI doesn't live. So it's
Mm.
important to recognize that the gap between okay coaches and teachers and whatever and people that have really put in the work, the embodiment work, is going to continue to be more and more obvious, bigger and bigger. And so people are going to resource to those who are truly embodied as our world becomes more and more sterile and manicured and technology driven.
Mm.
We are going to be more and more hungry and thirsty for that which feels true and real. And that we can only access through embodiment.
Ugh, I'm like snapping and I'm like, she's preaching, she's preaching. I mean, couldn't have said it better myself. I think that is something I've been noticing too. It's like your embodiment of what you teach, meaning you don't just say the things because that's what you think you have to say, or that's what someone else has said, or because ChatGPT wrote it. You don't just say the things to manipulate an outcome. You live what you teach. You practice what you preach. You teach because you've lived first. You create something from your own lived experience mixed with your expertise or your training. Like it's not just something that's hollow and empty. Like it has true integrity and depth, and you've tested it and you've lived it. And it's not just, yeah, like hollow words, and people are going to be able to feel subconsciously the difference. And so I love that you said now more than ever, being in your own embodied leadership is like that's what's going to separate the coaches and healers and practitioners that are in this field for the long haul and the ones that struggle and eventually quit.
Yeah, absolutely. And returning back to that word I mentioned earlier, the essence, this is why, and another reason why I find this word so potent. First of all, I love that you say practitioners because that's, to me, the core of every leader that is truly in integrity. You can't be a teacher and a leader and a coach and a healer if you're not a practitioner, if you're not practicing,
Mm,
have a practice of serving yourself your own medicine before you serve it to others. Like really learning from and through life in a way that your work becomes your life's work, right?
yes.
It's not just your job. And this is the difference. Again, I was saying today the graphics of all of the jobs that are going to be replaceable faster with AI and all of those things. And I had this thought. I said, as sad as it is to see the shift that is happening and what is coming for a lot of people, there could be a beauty here in the fact that the majority of jobs that may be replaced are jobs that a lot of people don't enjoy doing. And
Mhm.
they're doing for the sake of survival, which is important. And of course, we need to have that income. And as a society, we get to look for alternatives and solutions to ensure that those people still have what they need. And if I'm thinking about it, not from the perspective of this year or 5 years from now, but the potential on a bigger scale for humanity, what if this was an invitation for those jobs that are we just do because it brings us an income, it gives us money to survive. If we were to find as a humanity a solution for that so that people still have their income and can pay for their expenses and all of that, just from a very perhaps right now utopian point of view, the jobs that would be left would be those that are truly led by our passion and
Mm,
that are truly led by that within ourselves that feel so excited to create or offer something to the world. And of course, there are a lot of nuances here, and this is a big topic. So, by no means I'm saying I'm glad that AI is going to get rid of some jobs or anything like that. We have a lot of work to do as a humanity to find solutions for what's coming. However, there that just got me thinking about this difference between what we do as a job and what we do from a space of deep purpose
mm,
and dharmic connection to what we believe we're here on earth to do. And so when we are truly doing this type of work, because not because it's sexy, because you get all the followers on Instagram and people think you're cool and all of the reasons why, I know a lot of people in the space got enticed by that aspect of the coaching, healing industries. We have an opportunity now to really connect deeper with our why. Like, why are you doing this? And if you're really doing it because you want to support humanity, you want to offer something valuable to the world, you want to see this world be a better place, then it starts with you.
yeah.
The medicine needs to be served to yourself first. The practice needs to be practiced by you first.
Mm,
You need to embody those teachings. And again, there's going to be a huge gap and big difference between those that are stuck in their survival patterns and mechanisms and running from that, which again, we've all been there, done that. So there's nothing wrong with it. This is just an opportunity that we are being gifted now to take it a little deeper
mm.
and find that deeper core essence that drives us to do this work. And it begins with our own work.
Oh, I love this so much. And it's reminding me of something that we teach our certification students, and it's you can't take someone somewhere that you yourself are not willing to go. Like you can't take someone to the depths of their own shadow if you have not met your own shadow. And that doesn't mean you're fully healed and that you're perfect and you're this enlightened being, but it means that, like you said, you are consistently a recipient of your own medicine. Like you're not just here to dish it out. It's not like I am well and you are sick and I'm here to give you medicine. It's I'm here to become. And it's just such a different approach. It's rooted in it's not just I'm here to help you. It's I'm here to live this thing that I'm feeling called to live, and I'm going to impact others along the way.
Yeah, exactly. And one thing that I've noticed most recently, I've been sitting with this a lot. What that does, it's it doesn't just help us be more embodied, more in integrity, and then help people in a deeper way because we've gone deep ourselves, so we can take people there. But if we take it back to, and I don't want to make this conversation too much about the macro if that's not where you want to go, but I've been sitting with this. So many of the issues that we are experiencing as a humanity in these societies are or can be related to this vertical way of relating. There's these vertical hierarchies, ego-driven hierarchies that are placed everywhere we look within our political systems, financial systems, health systems, and also as a result within the coaching and healing industry, like anywhere else,
Yeah.
right? So with everything that's coming out to light nowadays, we are starting to see the crumbling of those systems where people that we pedestaled and looked up to and thought they were so cool and so amazing because they were in a movie or they were a famous actor or whatever, we're starting to see there's a lot more shadow to
Yeah.
beneath that, right? Like we were so blinded by the shiny lights of all those fame and power positions that we couldn't see what else was there. And now that information and that possibility to see with sober eyes what's really taking place
Mm.
across the globe, across systems and structures, is now being revealed and being clarified.
Mm.
And so with that, we get to look at, and this is a work that I found super helpful to do for myself, to look at where in my life was I holding vertical structures, where
Mm.
was I placing myself as less than or more than to find that sense of safety, and who was I pedestaling, or how had I learned, because this is something that has been passed down through this industry as well, that in order to be successful and to be a leader, I had to hold myself above others. Because
Mm.
seeing the shadow of leadership, opposite of embodied leadership, is this way of operating where I'll tell you, like you were saying, I'll tell you where to go, I'll serve you the medicine, I'll lead the way, but I won't take the medicine myself,
Mm.
work myself. And so there's something really powerful in here that we can do, A, because it's going to benefit us first and foremost, because doing the work is always going to help us independently of what it is that we do for a living. B, as leaders and practitioners and coaches and healers, we are going to be that much more powerful, that much more magnetic, that much more successful, that much more impactful when we are leading from that space of embodiment and integrity. And then to top it up, we're actually contributing to a reality for humanity that is so much more conducive of healing and truth and opportunity for us all, because we're learning to relate from a horizontal wisdom sharing versus this ego-driven hierarchies, vertical relationships that we've learned to have. So no matter how you look at it, it's just there's medicine for everyone when we choose to do our work.
I have chills all over my body and I could just scream with delight. And it's just so incredible to be talking with more and more women, especially who are stepping into leadership and redefining leadership because for the longest time, like you said, it's been vertical, it's power over others versus I empower others through me being the embodied representative of what's possible. And all I'm here is to walk, we're all walking each other home. I'm not here to be better than you or to, like you said, have this hierarchy. We are all now seeing that how capable we are. we're all seeing it's I'm here to show you your power. It's not I'm here to show you my power. It's I'm here to show you your power by me embodying the very thing that I know is also possible for you too. And it's, oh, I could just, I'm so glad the conversation is going in this direction because it's a completely different kind of leadership than what we're used to seeing. And what I've heard from women, good-hearted women, is that they're afraid to step into their power because they've only ever seen power as a weapon over others and as a way to control, dominate, and manipulate others. But this kind of power, embodied power, feminine power, is completely different. Can we talk about that? The different kind
Yes.
of power.
Yes, I love that. Well, what's coming up for me as you were sharing is that the difference when it comes from within, what I've experienced is that there's again a level of ease and presence that comes with it because I'm not holding on to what I think is power. Power is moving through me. So all of a sudden, I don't have to hold on tightly to what I think is going to be understood and well perceived and admired and whatever. It removes so much of the efforting for what am I going to say on social media? How am I going to speak about things on that? How prepared do I need to be for an interview? Like we were talking before this, starting this conversation, and we're like, okay, we're just going to go whatever the conversation wants to go, right? Because the information and the wisdom lives within. So there's no longer a need to try so hard and orchestrate and manicure everything in such a way, the manipulation that we've gotten used to so that we can maintain our power just leaves the room, exits the room. It's not needed. And so what I find that I've experienced and I've seen so many of my students and clients experience is this big exhale. It's almost like we've been holding on to this breath for longer than we can even explain. And all of a sudden we get to exhale. And through that exhale, we find so much more space. And then all of a sudden we begin to feel more alive, more sexually available, more excited, more radiant, more creative, more sensual, because we are connected to life. If you think about, let's imagine I have 100% capacity to dedicate to something, and 90% of the capacity is dedicated towards holding on to power in whatever way I think it needs to be, right? The way I look, the things I buy, the things I say, how I present myself to others, what I can and cannot share, whether I can accept others seeing me as having made a mistake or not knowing it all, whether I can take feedback or not, because I'm so enmeshed with this perceived need of holding on to power. So much of my energy goes into that. So then all of a sudden I have less than 10% left for my own life, for the enjoyment of the things that I care about. When that is removed and I understand my true power, which has nothing to do with what others think of me, how much money I'm making, how many followers I have, nothing like that. My true power comes from my connection to myself, my connection to my essence, my ability to hold myself in dignity and grace, even in the face of challenges, my availability to life, my relationship with life itself. And I call it God or Great Spirit, but you call it however you want, the universe, life, existence. When we have a relationship that is pulsing and alive with life itself, we realize that power is endless. There's no end to my power because it's not mine to begin with. I am the vessel through which life moves through. And so I am limitless. I am all powerful and it's effortless. But when I believe that my power comes through external factors and situations, or how tightly I can hold on to the idea and image I want others to have about me and of me, I'm screwed because it's so much energy. It's so exhausting. And this is why we have so many successful women and men, but we're talking about feminine leadership and embodied leadership a little bit more in this conversation. But for all of us, we have all these high achieving, successful women and men that feel absolutely
Mm.
dissatisfied and completely exhausted
Mhm.
because we're not orienting towards what actually matters. Because most of our energy is oriented towards holding onto what we think we need to survive.
Wow. I love this so much. Oh my gosh. And it's making me think of something one of my mentors said, and that's the difference between circumstantial power and personal power. It's like, do you only feel powerful and alive and worthy and whole when you're getting approval, when you're making a certain amount of money, when things are going your way, aka your ego's way, when everything is everyone's behaving the way that you want them to behave, like when you only feel powerful and whole and successful when all of your external circumstances are perfectly lined up, like you said, you're constantly going to feel anxious because life is gonna life. People are gonna judge you. You're gonna have rises and falls in your income and like things are gonna happen. But when you're sourcing your power from the source of power itself, when your power is not dependent on any of these external things, like you said, the power is then limitless. It's uncapped. It's not constantly reacting. You're not reacting. You can respond, you can get creative, you can pivot, but you're not at the mercy of other people's opinions or looking at your bank account and seeing the number and you're constantly at the mercy of what the number is, like how you feel inside. It's you find your power from something that transcends all of that. Life, God, life force energy. It's not dependent. It's no longer dependent. It's no longer enmeshed and tied like you were talking about. Oh, it's everything.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it's deep work. And I hope that everyone can understand this. In my experience, and I've been doing this work for over a decade for myself and in myself and leading others, I don't know that we can do this part completely alone, personally, because the mirrors are going to be necessary. The people or the things that are going to support us to see our blind spots are going to be needed because these programs have been running successfully successfully for decades, for longer than we know. Our mothers did it, our grandmothers did it, everybody that we know around us is still doing it. And so it takes a deep commitment to really decolonizing that part of our brains that is so convinced that we must earn our survival through hard work and hassle. And I speak also from my personal experience. There was a time in my life where I had to go through this, from being very successful for many, many, many years and having an ease and a certain lifestyle and everything that I could think of. It was easy for me to have it because I had the income and the professional success and all of that. And then life, like you said, life's gonna live. And for me, one day my father passed completely unexpectedly. And the relationship I had been in for years at the time completely ended 3 weeks after that as well. So I entered this deep, deep, deep grief portal through which life was really asking me to stop and to slow down and to stop. And at the time, I had already learned how to do things a more feminine way. And I was definitely operating in my organization in a very feminine way. However, I was still subconsciously tying this sense of worth and safety to the success that I had experienced. And then for some time, I needed to take care of myself and to not launch a bunch of programs and to not run international retreats and to not be taking a bunch of private clients and just keep things very simple. And there were parts of my identity that really struggled with that. There were parts of my identity that didn't like that one bit. And I was still able, luckily, to sustain my life and to take care of myself. And yet the change of pace, the change of gears really opened the door to seeing how deeply I had related my value and my safety to being in positions of leadership, being in positions of holding space for others and leading things and having a lot going on. And it was such a beautiful journey because it allowed me to actually land in such a deep way in the understanding and recognition of the value of my essence and how much my presence alone brings to the table, independently of whether I'm being interviewed on podcasts or not, independently of whether I'm launching programs or not, independently of whether I'm running retreats and having all these high ticket clients or not. And I needed that before coming back to launching things and holding space and all of that, because that allowed me to really find myself in a completely new way, where now I'm back with writing the book, and I'm publishing my book later this year and releasing it, and I'm launching programs and doing all those things. But I'm doing it from a completely different place now, completely different place, because there is this knowing that my essence is a gift. My essence is of value. It doesn't matter. I could quit work for the rest of my life if that's what life decided I had to do. And I will still be someone that brings so much to the table because of who I be, no matter where I go. It has nothing to do with my work. Like you were saying before, we do this work for ourselves and then we empower others along the way. So it helped me tremendously to understand my life's work is who I be.
Mm,
That touches everyone wherever I go. And my work is just what I do as a result, because I'm overflowing so much that it only makes sense to share this
yeah.
goodness with the world. It only makes sense to share these blessings with whoever I can. But the two are not tied anymore.
Oh, this is, thank you so much for sharing that personal story. And I think this is probably one of the most difficult things for us to learn. And it's like there's so many layers of learning this to really truly believe with every cell in your body that your beingness is enough. Oh my gosh. Like there's just so many levels of programming that is like that can't be enough. You know, it's like everything in our unconscious body is like, oh wait, no, like I have to be doing something in order to be of value to anyone versus to really truly believe that like actually just who I am and who I'm being in and of itself is valuable and beautiful and powerful and woo, like I know there's even pockets of my being where I'm like I'm still excavating that programming that like I have to be. Even I notice it in moments in my home where like I'm sitting on the couch and my husband's doing dishes. I feel this subtle wrestling in my body, like, oh God, I should be getting up and doing something because like, not that he's like expecting that of me, right? But we can notice all these like subtle ways that we've learned that we have to be doing something in order to be valuable. And it sounds like this experience you went through, like, was a mirror, was like one way where you had to come up to that programming face to face in an even deeper way and go, oh, whoa, actually, I'm learning that who I am and who I'm being is enough. And something that we teach our students is like the difference between, I don't know if you've ever heard Eckhart Tolle talk about this, but he talks about primary purpose versus secondary purpose and how a lot of us confuse them and we go, well, if I don't find my purpose, aka the thing that I'm here to do for other people, the way I'm meant to contribute, then like I'm I'm not enough. But Eckhart Tolle talks about primary purpose is Your primary purpose, the most important thing, your ultimate purpose is your beingness. Like to just be connected to life, to be present, to just be. And then your secondary purpose flows from that versus, okay, once I find my secondary purpose, once I find what I'm here to do, then I'll find who I am versus actually what I do flows from who I be. Whew. And that is not taught in school. So really, I thank you so much for speaking to that piece. And I'm feeling really moved by that. And again, still excavating parts of myself where I notice this century-old programming that in order to be of value, that I have to be doing, doing, doing. And I think ultimately, like, that's what this conversation boils down to, that like that our value as leaders, that our impact is not just about what we achieve, what we accomplish, but it's so much more about who we be and how we do what we do.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And the way that we lead and the way that we create and the way that we live and the way that we love really shifts when we're operating from that place. And this is something that I teach my students very often. I work a lot with the elements of nature and I help them come into connection with the elements and recognizing where and how those elements move from within ourselves and then how we may relate to them outside of ourselves. And we utilize that for certain embodiment practices and somatic practices. And what I have found is that people that live in connection with the natural world have an easier time finding that personal value and personal purpose that you're talking about, because this is how it was always intended to be, right? And so personally, I'm not religious, but I have my own faith. I don't follow any specific religion, but you'll hear me a lot talk about God and Great Spirit, and that can be existence, life, the universe, whatever, whoever is listening, however they want to describe that and connect to that. But connecting to that force, whatever that might be, that force that is somehow orchestrating all of life, right? Because I didn't tell the bees this morning, these are the flowers you need to go and pollinate so that we have honey and so that the environment can keep running, right? I didn't decide, hey, good morning, clouds. I need this many of you here and this many of you there. I didn't tell the sun, like, okay, time to come back out. I didn't do that. And so there's something, some force, each of us gets to resonate and relate to that in whichever way feels true and right. But there's some force that is bigger than us that ultimately is orchestrating all of existence. And when we connect to that force, and if that feels too out there for some people, then just to nature, factual. The elements are here. We can't deny there's an earth element, there's a water element, there's an air element, there's a fire element. Those are things that we can experience, if not within ourselves, at least outside of ourselves. When we connect with these elements and the deep wisdom that they carry, we start to turn our orientation inwards and we start to connect to that which has always been and will always will be. I believe the elements were here before we came, and that feels like a pretty obvious positive to me. And they will be here way longer after we're gone, right? And so when we connect to that, we can begin to take a little space from the noise that this fast-paced world that is pulling us in so many different directions with all these existential questions that seem to have so much urgency, like what are you going to do for work and how are you going to launch your next thing and how much money are you going to bring next year and are you sure that you said this thing right, and what if you say this on Instagram and people cancel you for it, and what and how are you sure that your breasts are big enough, maybe you should change them, does your hair color look good on you, maybe you should diet. Like there's just so many things that pull us in so many different directions to distract ourselves from our ultimate personal purpose and our true sense of essence and power, that it's not about turning away, but taking a little bit of distance from time to time from that noise and turning inward. And I find that connecting with nature and connecting with the elements is a really great way to begin. Then allows us an opportunity to find that conversation with ourselves and with our bodies. Our bodies are always speaking to us, but they tend to us and communicate what they need in whispers because they're very shy, because we've been avoiding them and ignoring them for so long. So they're so used to speaking and not being heard that they just speak very softly. And when we start to quiet the noise that's out there and begin to connect to ourselves, going, I'm here. I'm not going to leave this time. I'm here and I want to listen. I'm here and I want to hear what you've got to say. When we stop running away from ourselves and neglecting and betraying the truths of our bodies, we start unraveling all of the different pieces that have been potentially stuck, potentially just waiting to be resolved within our own systems. And through doing that, a lot more possibility is also made available. We gain access to more truth because all of a sudden we're not longer as constrained by the limitations of the things that have hurt us in the past and the conditioning that we received through our culture and our parents and the things that we watched on TV. And so it's important in this journey to really finding our own essence and our sense of personal purpose and greater purpose, that we turn inwards and orient to that which is always true. Because trends are going to change, the financial systems are going to change. One year we believe everything pharma says, the next year we don't believe anything. One year we believe there's no aliens, the next year they're saying that now they're going to disclose they are. It's like all of those things are going to continue to change. Everything that's external, it's going to shift and continuously take us for a ride in a million different directions. And so again, now more than ever, with everything that's happening in the world, it's important that we find a place of grounding where we can connect to that which is always truth. The elements, nature, they're always truth. They were here before, they'll be here when we leave. And when we connect to that, and then we begin a line of clear communication with our bodies and begin listening to ourselves, we can find clear answers that perhaps we've been seeking for so long, but we've looked for them in places where we'll never find them outside of ourselves. We will never find them there. And so, especially as the tension and the intensity of the world events continues to increase, finding that sense of agency within, where we know how to take care of ourselves, we know how to resource ourselves so that we can relate to the world from an empowered place instead of leaving our nervous system's regulation up to mercy of the world, of whether I had my algorithm showed me something funny or something horrible on Instagram this morning, or whether the news said that the next horrible thing is happening, or I didn't watch the news today. We get to find that grounding and that anchoring. I find that turning to, again, the elements and to our bodies, to our breath, to our voice is super important.
I couldn't agree more and couldn't have said it better myself. And I think that's a really beautiful piece to leave us with. It's like, okay, how do we begin? How do we begin this journey of coming back to ourselves, leading from embodiment? Oh, connect back to the greatest teacher who was here before, who's going to be here after we go. Our bodies are going to return to Earth, right? Like we came from Earth, we're going to return to her. So for those who are like, okay, how do I begin this journey? What are some ways that I can start to find my beingness, find my wholeness inside of myself versus from outside of myself, and nature being one of our greatest teachers. And I'm also, if there's anything that you want to leave our audience with, more information about where to find you and your work, or any other nuggets of wisdom that you want to leave our audience with today.
Mm, thank you. Yeah. Yeah, and that piece, I find that connecting with the body is most important, and the breath. So if anything, if no more tools are available to you at this point, if there's um yeah, if this is all you do, just begin with listening to your body, even making a practice every day to really scan through every part of your body, notice the parts that feel contracted, notice the parts that feel tense, and just begin bringing your breath to those places. It sounds simple
Mm,
because it is, but I've been doing this work for over a decade, and I still find my breath to be one of the most profound things I've ever experienced. There's there's something to be said about beginning the day connecting to our vessel. I always say we never leave the house without our keys or our wallet, but the majority of us leave our house without our legs. We
mm,
leave the house and we're not aware that we are in this body this morning. We haven't taken a moment to awaken the body, to connect to the sensations of the body. So even just beginning the day by taking a moment to breathe and to connect to every part of your body, scan your body, or even just massage, tap, just take a moment to begin that dialogue.
mm.
If anything else, that in itself will already make a change and be a shift. But for anybody listening to this conversation that is feeling called to going deeper into this connection to the body, to the nervous system, deeper embodiment, and connection to the elements, I have a program called Alter that I run twice a year. We're starting again in April. So doors open March 30th, and then our first class is the first week of April. And it's a 3 month journey for women where we go into this deep feminine embodiment and learn a lot of practices, movement practices, breathwork practices, ritual practices, and also learn more about how to connect to our inner world and the natural world to access more power, more of our essence, more of our confidence, authenticity, sensuality, and creativity. And it's such a deep and powerful journey. I'm not sure when this podcast is going to come out, but if it happens to come out before March 25th, we have a free event, online event, a 2 hour somatic activation and embodied remembrance journey. And so we'll do 2 hours of somatic work online on Zoom. And then for 7 days, we have a private Telegram group where I'll be sending daily practices and transmissions. So to access there, I'll give you the link so you can leave it there, sigridtasies.com/let live. But I'll give it to you, and hopefully they can find and join us for 2 hours live, but really 7 days of a really powerful free container to take that relationship with ourselves and with our bodies deeper.
That is incredible. I will share all of those links in the show notes. I'll be sure to have this episode come out before the 25th so that
Thank
people
you.
can jump into your event. Yeah, the more people can have access and containers where they can really learn this stuff. I really believe the world is going to be such a different place when we can all come back home to our bodies. So thank you so much for your time today, for sharing your wisdom. I'm so moved by our conversation, by who you are, the work you do in the world, and I'm just so, so grateful that you came onto the podcast today. And I'm really look forward to connecting more. I would love to connect
Yes.
more. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And for everyone listening, be sure to check out those links and keep building that relationship with your body. It's the best thing you can do for your work in the world. It's the best thing you can do for yourself. It's the best thing you can do for the collective right now. So thank you so much for listening. And here's to living your dream career.